Hello, my friends. Let's get right to it. Yesterday, Zelensky made another statement about the best security guarantees for Ukraine. And according to him, that means NATO membership. However, Rutte responded by saying that Ukraine was never promised NATO accession after the war with Russia.
I always also point out that we never said that Ukraine would become a member of the alliance as part of a peace deal. And what the Americans have said, that they have taken the view that as part of a peace deal, Ukraine should not become member of NATO, being subject to a peace deal. But that's of course separate from what will happen in the future. It is very intense, and there are days that I'm twice on the phone with Zelensky. And many weeks go by where at least we speak once or twice. So there is a very intensive cooperation.
Zelensky also claimed that Washington is under Moscow's influence.
I believe that Vitkov frequently echoes Kremlin narratives. I agree with you. I think this won't bring us any closer to peace. Unfortunately, I believe this weakens US pressure on the Russian Federation. And while I cannot be ungrateful to America for all they have done, I do think, unfortunately, that today they are often influenced by Russian narratives. We cannot accept these narratives. But we are fighting for ourselves, and we will challenge these narratives wherever they appear. We simply have no other choice. We are fighting for our independence and our very existence.
The soldiers on the front lines are proving this. The battle is intense. Russians are launching up to 200 assaults per day, and the Ukrainian forces are holding the line, sometimes even launching counterattacks. So let's dive right into the situation on the front lines. But before we start, I want to remind you it's been a while since I last asked you to support the channel with a like. It really helps promote Ukrainian content. And if you are new here, I invite you to subscribe to stay updated on all the latest events. Let's start with the Kursk direction. Here, the Russians are pushing hard, launching more than 20 assaults per day. However, despite their efforts, they haven't managed to advance further. Russian war correspondents have already claimed that they entered the village of Huyevo, and today new reports emerged saying that they have reached the Ukrainian border and taken back control of the village of Gogolivka. But I wouldn't jump to conclusions just yet. As always, the Russians exaggerate their successes. Their goal is to reach the border and, if possible, enter Sumy region. So for now, we're waiting for official confirmations or at least geolocated video evidence. So far, there is none. In the Belgorod direction, the Russians continue striking border villages in Sumy region. However, the Ukrainian forces remain in the Demidovka area with no reports of new advances at this time. In the Kharkiv direction, aside from shelling, there have been no movements along the front line. Meanwhile, in Vovchansk, the fighting continues non-stop, but the Ukrainian forces have successfully repelled all attacks, and the situation remains unchanged. Now let's move on to the Pokrovsk direction, where the situation is the most challenging due to a lack of success and the loss of certain positions. Russian forces have intensified their offensive, increasing the number of assaults. They are trying to retake lost positions, attacking Novoalexandrivka and Uspenivka while attempting to break through to Kotliny. Additionally, they continue efforts to advance toward the outskirts of Pokrovsk, but Ukrainian forces are holding strong and repelling these attacks. Russian troops are also launching constant assaults on Chunishine, Lysivka, the village of Promень, Yelizavetivka, and Tarasivka. Over the past 24 hours, the front line hasn't changed, but the situation remains extremely difficult with no reduction in shelling intensity. In the Kurakhove direction, fierce battles are ongoing for Preobrazhenka and Konstantinopel, where the Russian forces are also storming Rozliv. However, no breakthroughs have been made so far, as Ukrainian defenders successfully repel all attacks. In the Velika Novosilka direction, Russian sources claim they have entered Vesele, but Ukrainian forces are counterattacking toward Dniproenergia to cut off the advance. The fighting is still ongoing. Additionally, Russian troops are attempting to break through to Vilne Pole, with battles raging for Novosilka and an assault on Novopil. We're waiting the outcome of this new wave of attacks, but the situation in this sector remains extremely difficult. In the Zaporizhia direction, Russian forces continue assaulting Sherbaki and Mali Sherbaki, while also pushing toward Stepove and Lobkove amid heavy shelling. Despite their efforts to establish a foothold for a larger offensive, they haven't achieved significant success. In recent days, they managed to advance through the fields toward these settlements, but their movement has now stalled. We are closely watching for further developments. In the Kherson direction, Russian forces persist in their attempts to advance on the islands, while shelling on the right bank continues. However, no major changes have been reported in this sector so far. In the Toretsk direction, Russian forces continue fighting in the city center, trying to regain lost positions. The situation remains challenging, and Ukrainian forces report that Russia may succeed due to the sheer number of attacks. However, recent Ukrainian counterattacks have been effective, pushing the front line back. This direction is far from lost. Since Drapati's arrival, the situation has improved, and Russian forces haven't achieved significant breakthroughs. Fighting for Krymske, Dachne, and Delivka continues, but no major changes have been recorded in the past 24 hours. In the Chasiv Yar direction, Russian forces have low activity in this area. They are attempting to advance in the city center, storming Pretechene, and moving through the fields toward Bilahora. However, no territorial changes have been observed in the last 24 hours, and all attacks have been repelled so far. In the Siversk direction, Russian forces are assaulting Bilohorivka, Verkhnyo-Kamensk, and attempting to break through from Ivano-Darivka. However, despite increased activity, no changes in territorial control have been observed. Over the past 24 hours, Russia launched 11 attacks, which is a significant number for this direction. We will continue to monitor the situation. In the Liman direction, fighting continues in Yampolivka, Kolodyazi, Lipove, and Novomykhailivka. No major territorial changes have occurred in the past 24 hours, but Russian activity remains high with continuous attempts to advance. In the Borova direction, Russian forces continue assaulting Boguslavka, Kopanki, and advancing toward Novosergiyevka. However, no territorial changes have been reported as Ukrainian forces repel all attacks. Further south, there are no new recorded assaults near Druzhelyubivka, meaning the situation remains unchanged. In the Kupiansk direction, Russian troops are assaulting Holubivka but have made no progress. Over the past 24 hours, the front line has remained stable. However, there is a high risk that Russian forces may reinforce and resume attacks near Malashapkivka in an attempt to encircle Pokrovsk or Kupiansk. For now, no assaults have been observed, so we are monitoring the situation closely. It's also important to note that yesterday the Russians struck Poltava, a lot of explosions. Energy infrastructure was attacked. The city was left without electricity and partially without water. Shahed drones flew over Poltava in groups, and explosions went off one after another. This is the quiet after the attacks on energy facilities by Russia. Well, now we wait for the American response. But the Americans will probably say they trust Putin. Zelensky also responded to statements about Russia wanting to take 4 regions along their borders.
Regarding the territories, we saw it, we heard it in the media. We didn't discuss this in Saudi Arabia. And here, it is very important to have a united position on the European continent. United, no one will give our land to Putin or Russia.
We really hope that no one will give away land just like that. Friends, please share your opinion in the comments. And Putin said that NATO countries are constantly attacking them while they're not threatening anyone.
Russia has never threatened anyone in the Arctic, but we are closely monitoring the situation, building an adequate response line, increasing the combat capabilities of the armed forces, and modernizing military infrastructure. We will not allow any encroachments on the sovereignty of our country. We will reliably protect our national interests, maintain peace and stability in the Arctic, ensure the long-term socio-economic development of the region, improve the quality of life for people, and preserve the unique natural environment.
Meanwhile, Zelensky says that he is not afraid to start negotiations, but Putin doesn't want them.
It's very simple, he is not ready for direct negotiations. We are not afraid of any negotiation format, I am not afraid. We are at war, not theoretically, but very practically, unfortunately. And I know everything that is happening now with us, during the war. We understand where we have difficulties, what is happening on the front lines, what is lacking at each kilometer. We are dealing with weapons. I am dealing with weapons. I talk and discuss with some leaders about what they have in armament. Again, I needed more of this. And I studied it all, I understand it in detail. So I definitely know what we need, what we are lacking. And I am ready for any negotiation format. I have never been afraid. It's just, Putin wants war. What can a person who wants war say about peace in negotiations? I am not the person who will sit and stay silent, or swallow all his narratives. I am not interested in his points in Crimea, his red caviar, etc.
And Putin once again claimed that the government in Ukraine is illegitimate and that negotiations cannot take place. Putin proposed discussing the introduction of temporary administration in Ukraine under the auspices of the UN and several countries to hold elections. Other points from the delusional leader. Civilian authorities in Ukraine are not legal because there were no presidential elections. In Ukraine, Nazis have a lot of influence. Russia doesn't understand with whom it should sign anything in Ukraine, as tomorrow other leaders may come. As we can see, the situation is critical and it seems the real negotiations are still a long way off. If Trump didn't support Russia, they wouldn't be making such demands today. As it stands, the situation is not developing in Ukraine's favor. What do you think about this? Be sure to share your opinion in the comments. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.